Right, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you both, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They say I got to learn, but nobody's here to teach me. If they can't understand it, how can they reach me? I guess they can't, I guess they won't, I guess they front. That's why I know my life is out of luck, fool. Tell me why are we so blind to see that the ones we hurt are you and me? Tell me why are we so blind to see that the ones we hurt are you and me?
Tribute there to the late Coolio, and that was Gangster's Paradise here on the Grassroots Football Show on East London Radio. It is Thursday, the 29th of September, 2022. Thank you so much for being here this evening. Welcome to our listeners, and for the first time ever, well done, or welcome, I should say, to our viewers. We are streaming live on YouTube for the first time ever. So that we had a bit of an issue with it the other week, but hopefully, fingers crossed, it will go well tonight. If there is any issues, please let us know via Twitter or social media. If you're experiencing any streaming issues, we'll work on it. But touch wood about 50,000 times that it's going to work okay. Well, as I say, welcome along. Joining us this evening, obviously, is my co-host. He has been around watching football and not long come back from a holiday from Greece. Pete's here. Evening, Pete. How are you?
Evening. Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
First time you ever waved to the camera for this show.
Yeah, I know. Well, normally I do this and then no one's watching me, but they might actually be watching me now. Refreshed, and it was a nice holiday. Although it already seemed a long time ago because I got back 11 days ago. So
yeah, there's been a lot's been going on since then.
Lots happened in 11 days. Loads of things happened. So yeah, but it was good. Yeah, it's good to be back though. So
yes,
yeah,
so.
ready to go again.
Definitely. Okay. Well, joining us this evening is Rob Parker from the Essex Alliance League to take our first look at events in the Alliance League this season. Thank you very much, Rob, for being here. How are you?
Great, thank you. Good to be back on the show. First time for this season, of course, and yeah, we're well into the season now, so it's good to see some football back and being played. And most teams now have kicked their seasons off. There are a few that haven't quite just yet, but the pitches are getting a bit softer, so I think teams are a little bit happier now.
Yes, I think they are. And obviously, that we had that really, you could say, dodgy start to the season, didn't we? With a lot of pitches being a bit worse for wear, shall we say, but through the summer months. So, but thankfully, there's been a lot more rain. I can't believe I'm actually saying this. I'm actually glad there's rain tomorrow night because it will soften the pitches up for Saturday.
Yeah, it's been a very difficult start for a lot of teams. I think we've got used to it though after so many weeks of playing on dust bowls. But yeah, it's great to see some green grass pitches and some relatively softer pitches. Anyway, they're certainly not soft yet, but they're far more pleasing to play on at the moment.
Yes, definitely. Also joining us, pushing the buttons for our radio listeners this evening. We sound like GB News and Talk TV here. It's Ian. How are you?
I'm good, and it's not too wet, so Harrowwood pitch isn't a swimming pool quite yet.
Okay, that's very.
And give it time.
Early days.
We do feel like Talk Sport and Talk TV really, and that, don't we? Because obviously, they do the radio streaming and the live YouTube streaming as well. So it's a new venture for us, but we're going to keep going. The show will be back, obviously, a regular intervals now. Obviously, explain the reasons why we haven't been here. Obviously, last week, unfortunately, was I myself had some family things I had to deal with, so it was just best for us to take the week off. The 2 weeks before that, we decided to postpone the show, including 3 weeks ago at the last minute with Justin Gardner, out of mark of respect, obviously, for Her Majesty the Queen, who sadly passed away on. Well, actually, the official statement, Ian, was actually made 30 minutes before we were due to go on air, wasn't it? So, out of respect, I phoned you, didn't I, straight away and said, no, we can't not tonight. So and obviously, I just want to say our thoughts are with the royal family, with Charles, Anne, Andrew, and Edward, and obviously Prince and Princess of Wales, the whole royal family, because I'm sure we'll all agree, all we've ever known is Queen Elizabeth II, and it's going to be very, very strange not only seeing Charles as king, no disrespect to him, but not seeing Her Majesty around out and about anymore, is it, Rob? It's going to be very strange.
It was a really weird week, wasn't it? I mean, obviously on that Thursday, things started to filter through that things weren't going quite right. I mean, once the news did come through, I don't think anybody quite expected what would happen following all the reaction, the outpouring, the queues, all the kind of the razzmatazz of what went on in the week that followed. It was quite well overwhelming in many ways. It was just, things changed so quickly. And you're right, we've all lived through only one monarch, and probably most people will never see that situation again. And it was never kind of had any kind of idea that would be what it was. I mean, we had a bit of an insight to it, obviously, with Prince Philip passing away last year, I guess, to a smaller degree, how that impacted us and following all of that. But this was just something completely fascinating, really, and worldwide, not just in our country. It hit a lot of people all across the world. So yeah, it was good to obviously pay our respects, I think. Obviously, the first weekend was where football was stopped, and I think I'm not sure we would agree that was the right weekend to do it. But obviously, people mindsets, mixture of feelings, of course, and it probably was the right thing looking in hindsight. But obviously, football likes to pay its respects in a different way, doesn't it? We would have loved to have got out there probably straight away and done a minute's silence or 2 minutes silence or a hand clap, something. But it was really it was great to see, so many people putting in the effort to go and join the queue, pay their last respects. It was really, really fascinating to watch.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I was on the top of in a bar in Greece, overlooking the sea with a cocktail when I got the news. It kind of put, I don't know, it sort of put a bit of a downer on the evening, a little sort of, because it was, it was sad news when it came through that they were that she wasn't well. But you kind of knew there was an issue when all the members of the family started going to Balmoral, because he thought that doesn't sound good, and of course she died in the afternoon, as it turned out. So but yeah, it's life changing, I think, for a lot of us, because obviously she's been on the throne for 70 years. So most people, I mean, obviously there are people that are over 70, but for most people that I know and we know, we haven't known any different. So it was a very sad day. And the funeral, if we're good at one thing in this country, it is the pomp and circumstance and the funeral and everything. And it was absolutely for a funeral, and it was done brilliantly. And I think all of the people involved should be applauded. And for the people who carried the coffin, they did an amazing job. Those young lads deserve a lot of credit for that, because that was, talk about pressure when you got the whole world watching and the king looking on. So I think our armed forces and all the services that part that day should be very proud, and I think the Queen would have been very proud of them too. So, but yeah, sad loss, but we now got to get behind the king and hope get this country. Obviously, there's a lot of things going on in this country at the moment that a lot of people are suffering, and we're probably going to in the winter. The winter coming up is going to be tough, but you know, if we all rally together and do it the British way, you know, we'll pull through this, and we'll be much better for it on the other side, I think. So not all doom and gloom, I don't think so.
I think you knew as well, really, that something was going to happen, because obviously today the death certificate's been released. It said she passed away at 3:10. And all the news outlets from about 4 o'clock started putting the black ties on. So I think Buckingham Palace told them, this has happened. You can't say nothing until we release the statement, until everyone's got up there.
The key thing I heard is when they said she's comfortable, which in medical terms means she's normal. And she's just being kept comfortable, but on a but it, you know, I mean, there's a lot of medical terms. They're all saying that normally means that, you know, she's on morphine or something just to ease the pain and whatever she was in and stuff, and that the time was coming closer. So yeah.
Ian, just quickly get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, working it as I do in radio, everyone knows there's a process when the news comes through, and yeah, so it was knowing we were going to have that show, and we were talking, and I was like, well, let's not talk about it because we don't know what's going to happen. And then next thing we hear is, you know, the really sad news. As you say, it was like 6:45, wasn't it? And we were about to do a show, and it's like, wow, okay. And every little aspect of it had been rehearsed for years. You know, they knew exactly what was going to happen at the funeral. The Queen had, you know, pretty much lined up exactly what she wanted. It's just incredible. And there were so many people who were like, right, okay, this is where we got to do the right thing. And it was just amazing, as you say, everything came together, and was done the right way, and it was really good.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Well, as I say, our thoughts are with the royal family, and God bless the Queen, God bless the United Kingdom, and God save the King. So let's talk about football. What I will do is I will kind of come onto the football-related side of it, because when Her Maj passed, there was a very, very strongly split opinion about this. Rob, I'm going to ask you. Obviously, the FA took the decision to postpone all the games, and as we've all seen from social media, there's been a massively split opinion on whether the games should have took place on the 10th and the 11th of September, owing to the fact that rugby and cricket were being played as well. Do you think the FA took the right decision or not?
It's a very difficult one. I mean, my phone started ringing minutes after the news came out. I'll be playing this Saturday. You know, teams Saturday, Sunday, asking that question. So everybody is affected in different ways, aren't they? I mean, I think most people were like, "Wow, that's huge news." Was it enough for men to want to stop playing football? I'm not entirely sure, and I think the FA had a very difficult decision to make, because whatever decision they were going to make was going to be wrong, but it was also going to be right. So it was a 50-50, one of those ones you're never going to win, you're never going to lose. I would have said it would have been better to do it the following weekend, the weekend of the funeral, to let people pay their respects that weekend. But I think it was just the initial reaction. You know, the nation, it was in such a period of mourning, that immediate shock, I think, was what took hold. And I think they took a decision which was reasonable. It was disappointing, I guess, that it wasn't consistent with other sports, and I think that's what a lot of people will say. Well, why can these people do this and these people do that? But you know, football took a decision, and you know, I think there'd be a lot of people in support of it. If we'd have played games, there'd have been teams saying, "Oh, I can't," you know, "I don't think it's right. We should be playing," and vice versa. So it really was a catch-22 situation for the FA, and I don't think the decision was a surprise. But yeah, I think it might have been better to look at doing it the following weekend, on the weekend of the funeral itself.
Hey.
Well, Rob alluded to it there. I mean, whatever the FA did, it was always going to be right or wrong. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in their position trying to make a decision like that. There's the argument that they might have respected it better by having the minutes of silence at every game and then singing the national anthem. I don't. I mean, I see both sides of it, but at the end of the day, they made the decision to call the games off, and I was all right with it. I was on holiday anyway, so I couldn't go to a game. But you know, there were a lot of people that were outspoken on Twitter. Let's put it that way.
There was one thing I was pleased about, and that was that they took a very direct decision and said, we're making this decision. Football is stopped. But what they hadn't done in previous years with obviously the coronavirus stuff was they often said, we think you should stop, but we'll leave it down to clubs or leagues or local counties. At least they made a definitive decision, and that was that. No one could argue with it.
I mean, there were a lot of people. I mean, obviously, there were a lot of people that have paid out money to go and watch games, and then the games being postponed and all this and that. I can kind of see the frustration, but at the end of the day, we've just lost one of our greatest monarchs in history, probably the longest serving one at least, and there's no one's ever going to do 70 years on the throne again, I wouldn't have thought, unless something weird happens. And I just think for one weekend, for one game to have it postponed, I think that's the least they could have done. Obviously, what weekend? I mean, you obviously say the following weekend for the funeral, that's a possibility, but I think, you know, I haven't got any complaints, and I think, you know, I think it was just we had to mark respect of some kind, because, you know, this was a big moment in our history. So I don't agree with the FA that often, but on this occasion, I actually thought, that's fair enough. So I didn't have a problem with it myself.
I think as well, considering she was the patron of the FA and Prince William was the president, it was totally the right thing to do.
Yeah.
This is what people don't understand. This is what people didn't get. She wasn't involved. Well, if you look at it, the two sports she was heavily involved, or had, you could say, involved with, horse racing and football, both called games and meetings off that weekend. Rugby and cricket, she didn't have anything to do with, so they carried on as per usual. Yes, it's frustrating. I myself hold my hands up. I was going to Barnsley on Saturday the 10th. I've lost out as a result. But am I complaining about it? No, because she's the leader of our country. She was the leader of the United Kingdom, and she should be respected. And I'm afraid that there was quite a few people out there on social media who were thinking of their selfish, greedy selves and were completely disrespectful. And I think it's absolutely honest. And I'm not trying to go overboard here, but the way people were saying, but if you're going back about 300 years ago, you would have been beheaded for saying stuff like that. It would have been known as treason, and it effectively is. The
thing with social media and Twitter, and what people got to realise is it's not the real world. So people will write stuff on there and face no consequences for it. You know, sometimes it's just look, people have an opinion about it. That's the problem. That's the thing with social media. People have always got an opinion, whether it's right or not wrong. But you know, people do think about themselves. That's just like the world we live in. And people always make a joke about it, or people always make fun about it if they don't particularly like it. But you know, you just got to try and turn a blind eye to it, because it's not the real world at the end of the day. And many people, and you saw the amount of people that came out to see her off. You know, that scene of her going up to Windsor Castle, it's unbelievable, the amount of people that were there. It was just, and they're the real people. That's the real world, and that's really what we should worry about. So, it's just how it is. Unfortunately, the world we live in, social media takes a massive amount of time up. But you just got to just realise it's not the real world at the end of the day. So.
Okay. Well, thank you for your opinions both on that one. We're going to move on to the action that's been taking place, and we're gonna go with Pete's adventures from the last week, and he's
I know.
had quite a few with a few controversial moments as well, haven't you, Pete? So
I mean,
yeah, so take us through it all.
talk about a baptism of fire coming back from holiday and then straight into that. Yeah, my first venture out to a game for 3 weeks because I've been away for 2, and then I didn't do anything midweek when I came back. And I thought, oh no, I'll have a nice easy day and I'll pop over to South Church Park to watch a double header. Obviously, it was Athletic Newham's home game, but because the wonderful Terry Mack's pitch isn't playable at the moment, that's another story which I'm not going to go over again because I've done it many times already.
Yeah.
They switched the game against South Manor to South Church Park. So the first teams kicked off at 2:00. Played out a competitive game. You know, it was a very competitive game. And when Manor went ahead after an hour, you thought, can they possibly squeeze out first win of the season? Unfortunately, they couldn't. Joel Lapire, the skipper, netted twice in the last 20 minutes. And Newham won the game 2-1. The game, though, wasn't really the talking point, unfortunately. Because after the game, I was watching the under-23s then played Newham's reserves in the Len Cordell Memorial Cup trophy group game. And there was about, I don't know, 10 minutes to half time in that game. James Wakeling, the now ex-boss of South Manor, came out and he was standing. I looked over and he looked at me and he just went like that. The chop the neck chop thing. If people were watching, they could see me doing it. And I went, oh dear. And unfortunately, I feared it was coming because, you know, they haven't had a great start to the season in the league. And that's fine. People get sacked all the time. The whole management got sacked. I thought, fine, people get sacked all the time. But then he told me, oh yeah, he dumped me. He dumped me. Yeah, I know I keep saying that. He sacked me by text. And I'm like, what? And Jerry, the chairman, and I'm going to name him. I don't care what he says about me or anything because I've got my opinion. This is my opinion, not the radio station's, obviously. He was at the ground. He was there before the game, during the game, you know, watching the game as he normally does. So I thought, well, he's sacked you by text while he's still at the ground. I went, no, he left 10 minutes ago, and then decided to sack them by text, which I think is utterly disrespectful to James, you know, the real GKC, you know, Callum and April, you know, the four people at the management who last season worked miracles at that club, keeping them up in the senior league. They were dead and buried when they took over the bottom of the league, looking like they were going down and they came in and got them up to almost mid-table. So, you know, and then this season hasn't started well, but it's only 6 league games in. It's not the end. It's not like we're in February or March, is it? And he decides to end their tenure by a text. I just think it's utterly unacceptable, totally unacceptable. And to say the mood at the ground was sombre and angry was an understatement. There were committee members there who were ready to, you know, just up sticks and leave. A lot of the first team just got up and left. They said, we're not playing for this club then, if they're going to treat him like that. And that's what happened. I don't know what sort of first team they've got for the weekend because a lot of them walked out. So that was rather, well, I mean, it's just not the right way to do. I don't know what he was thinking when he did it. It's cowardly, it's disrespectful, and it's unacceptable to do that.
You know who's going to take the team on Saturday because they've got Bucko still at home on Saturday?
I've no idea. I don't know what's going on. I know they keep advertising for a new first team manager. I don't know who's taking the team on Saturday, and I don't know who's playing for them Saturday. I don't know how many of the first team have decided to stay and play. Are the under-23s going to step up? Some of them step up into the first team and help them out. They've got a game Friday night against Barking. So I don't know who's be playing in that game and who's playing in this, but it's just another one more thing that's happened in that club. You know, just when you think they're stable and they've got a good future, they've got the ground sorted out. You know, they had a good manager, good management team, good players who just weren't getting the rub of the green in the first 6 games. They were so close that first win, and then if you get that first win, you'll kick on. But it didn't happen, and that was rather upsetting, and you know, it's just another thing that's happened in that club, and it just breaks my heart. It really does. But you know, we'll see what happens in the next few weeks. But they couldn't have picked a worse team to play at the moment. Buckhurst Hill, who are absolutely they've found their mojo in big style at the moment. 7-0 and 6-1 the last 2 games. So I do fear a bit for Manor, but we'll see what happens at the weekend. But yeah, I mean, I won't go into what happened in the reserve game. I don't really want to talk about that, but there was a stupid incident at the end of that game as well, and it's like, what a day! It's like, I was thinking, I'm just going to two. So yeah, so my blog, I wrote a blog on the day, obviously, and I've got about 300 views on it so far.
Wow.
So there's obviously a lot of people were interested to see what was happening. I normally get about 50 or 60, if that, for normally. So if 5, it's way more than I'd normally get view-wise. So yeah, but it was not the best of days off the pitch. Let's put it that way.
What I was going to say to you, Pete, as well, is obviously it shows how angry. I mean, the angry reaction on social media says it all. There's one post on social media that I think really hammered home the situation at that club, when there was about 1 or 2 people saying, "Bring Bob Wesley back."
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's not been the same. It's not been the same since he left. I'll be honest. I mean, Steve Robinson came in, and that's all well documented what happened when he was there. And then, you know, and then Jerry's coming. The problem is, I mean, they just haven't had any stability since Bob left. Bob left about 10 years ago, I think, roughly.
Yeah, about
and you know, since then I don't know how many managers they've had since then, but it must be several.
He retired, didn't he, the year they finished second behind Whittam?
Yeah. Well, that's when Russell Faulkner was in charge. They had a great team that year. You know, they got to the fourth qualifier in the FA Cup. You know, it's just things like that. And you think their club was and a great youth system as well. You know, all this stuff, and then they lost it all. And then, you know, they've been trying to get the youth back recently, and they have got youth teams again now who are doing well. So, but it's just the way, you know, as I said, people get sacked all the time, and you can accept that. But it's the way he went about doing it. You know, it just wasn't right. Doesn't sit well with anybody. That it's you don't sack people over text. If you can't find, the least you can do is sit them down face to face and tell them, this is the decision I'm making. You don't do it over text. That's just cowardly. So yes. That's what angered the people the most. When I say angry, they were like red in the face, angry how they were treated. So yeah.
Rob, I was going to bring you in on your opinions on this. And obviously, as you live locally as well, so yeah, it's a big seismic shock, I think, what happened there.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to quite understand the method of communication there. Certainly, I mean, I don't understand quite what the relationship had been like previously between the 2 individuals. Whether they obviously weren't quite seeing eye to eye in the lead up to that. Perhaps there's more to it than we know. But yeah, obviously, it's a sequence of events that don't do clubs at grassroots level any good, really. I mean, it's a strange one because looking at their results, I mean, they're not a lot better off than where they were last year. But the games they have played, there's only one game really where they've been blown away. The rest of the games actually have been decided by the odd goal, haven't they? So they obviously are competing in games. There's obviously a better team there now than perhaps at this stage last year. Would you agree with that, Pete?
The players they had were better players, and they still had some of the old players from last season who done well as well. So it's just about it was a mixture of both. But
Yeah,
they'd made 11 signings before the season, so they had got a lot of new bodies in.
yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of guys there who've come out of the Alliance and the Corinthian. In fact, when Kieran James, who was top goal scorer in the Alliance last year, is playing for Manor this year, isn't he? So, I mean, it's all come also on the back of what should have been a really good season for them. When you think of all the ground improvements that they've done, you know, they've kind of got the ground looking like a proper ground. But yeah, it's obviously I've seen it from afar, really, not seeing the day-to-day performances of the side, but you do question quite how that's been done, don't you?
The other thing I want to mention as well is Jerry promised them, you know, a budget at the start of the season. That gradually got cut back over the last few weeks. It really hurt the morale of the team, and the management were by the end had their hands tied behind their backs. You know, it was very difficult. And things you can't promise the world and then not deliver it, and that's another thing that I think could have been handled better as well. And of course, it's all come. And it all came to a head this week, obviously, and then they lost the game on Saturday, and then Jerry's decided that enough's enough. He's then done that. So,
I mean, geographically as a club, I mean, in the league that they're in, they are kind of out on their own, aren't they? Them and them kind of white ensign. So it must be hard to attract players when you know you're practically playing away and a long way away quite frequently. But yeah, I mean, it's a sorry state of affairs, really. And at the end of the day, the chairman is the man who's got to make the decision. And I guess now he'll be proven right or wrong with his next appointment. We'll see who that is.
Well, yeah, I'm sure we'll see in due course, and then obviously hopefully he'll have his black book of players, and he'll get another team in, and then he'll start again. So what's been happening year after year with them. So we'll see. They just need to try and survive in this division. They can't. It'd be a disaster if they go down to step 6. But
the good thing, I suppose, at this stage of the season, a couple of wins here or there can take you a long way, can't they?
Exactly. They need a win. They get a win or two, then the confidence grow. But you know, it really depends who comes in as manager, because then that'll determine the players that come in and whether the players are good enough to keep them up or get them to mid-table or whatever they need to do. So it's not all lost, but at the moment it's a bit deflating. So. But we'll see what happens. I just hope they don't get destroyed on Saturday, because it's just nobody wants to see that. Well, some might want to see that, but I certainly don't want to see that. So,
yeah. Of course, there was Burgergate, of course, a few weeks ago, wasn't there?
Yeah, those burgers.
The famous Southend Manor burger.
I mean that. Well, I had a burger there Saturday, and it was cooked, so that's fine. But to be fair, the tea bar, who Donna runs the tea bar, and she's a fantastic woman, and she really she makes some nice food. It wasn't her who cooked those burgers, by the way. It was a man cooking them outside on a barbecue. But I don't think he turned the barbecue on, because if anyone's seen that YouTube video of I can't remember who it was now, but it
was Smith, wasn't it? Smith.
Yeah, Smith. Yeah, I mean, he's literally his burger was raw, not even cooked. And he went over to the barbecue thing, and he wasn't even on. But yeah, that was a bit worrying. I'm glad I didn't have a burger. I nearly had, because I was at that game. I nearly had a burger from that, but I'm glad I didn't now. But yeah, interesting.
So the upcoming games, obviously, Buckhurst still this weekend, as you say, will be a very tough one because of the drastic differences in the form between the two sides, I guess. But are there any winnable games after that you can see that might start to pick things up?
I haven't even looked at them.
I think they've got West Essex as well, which is going to be another tough one.
The thing is, in this league, I think all games are really tough. I mean, they've got Buckhurst. The Buckhurst have scored like 13 goals in the last 2 games. So, you know, it's just like you start to think, oh, blimey, where's you know, and I'm trying to find the
They've got Enfield away in midweek, and they're up there as well, aren't they? And then West Essex at home.
So so they got Enfield and Buckhurst still in the next 2-3 games, yeah.
And then West Essex.
And then West Essex. So it's like have some really easy games, yeah. Not. I mean, hopefully they'll get a manager in the next week or so. But not the problem. You would have thought if he was thinking about sacking James and co, he would have had a few ideas of a new manager. You shouldn't really be sacking someone without a backup plan. I don't think you should anyway. But
no, I mean, it sounds like a very reactive decision, doesn't it?
it sounds like a knee-jerk reaction that he done, and he done it by text, which is just disrespectful. So, Buckhurst, Enfield, and West Essex. I mean, West Essex is top of the league, so yeah. Good luck with that. That's probably three of the toughest games they could have had. Obviously, they could have had Redbridge and Little Oakley up there as well, but I think whoever, I don't know who's going to be playing for. I don't know what the first team situation is. I mean, my understanding is a lot of them just got up and walked out and said they weren't coming back. So,
yeah, I mean, my gut feeling would be that they'll probably recruit from probably the league below. I would think it's going to be very hard to attract players from the division that you're in or above, isn't it? So they're going to have to obviously possibly use under 23s, maybe look to sides. To dual register with sides from step 6 perhaps might be the only way forward, at least temporarily, to get himself on a kind of a bit of
exactly. Oh, yeah, but it's very sad because I really thought with James at the helm and the management team he built around him, they were going to really kick on this season. I still don't think 6 games is enough. I mean, it's nothing, is it? That seems to be the thing these days. Managers getting sacked about 6 games into their tenure if they haven't got anywhere. I just don't think it's just not enough time, is it? So,
no, I mean, especially when you look at the results, as I said earlier, and they're not big defeats, are they? They're odd goal defeats where clearly the side is in the game, but just not doing enough to get anything out of it.
No, exactly. Anyway, I think we'll park the Manor bus there for now. We'll quickly have a look at the other games because obviously it was the Vase at the weekend as well. So there were a few teams involved in that. Basildon Town, their start to senior life has been incredible. They've knocked FC Clacton out of the Vase on penalties, and FC Clacton have been doing quite reasonable this season. So. They're sitting in 10th, but they're a good side to Clacton. That was a good result for Basildon, wasn't it, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it helped to have the home draw a little bit, I guess. There, obviously that's a big advantage straight away. I've seen Basildon twice now, both times once in the Essex Senior Cup and then last night in the Thameside Trophy. And I'll give them their due. They're a good footballing side. They play football on the floor. They knock the ball about quickly. Some good attacking players there. They're certainly riding on the crest of a wave, I would say. And look like a side probably better than the league they're in just at the moment. I mean, obviously they got a long way to go to perhaps put those performances in literally every week against physical sides, but they are a side who you want to keep an eye on. And I'm not sure who they drew in the next round. Who did they pick up in the next round? Did you notice?
That's a really good. You caught me out there. I can't remember.
I should have known myself, really.
I can't. Who have they got in the next round? Someone tweet us if they know. I can't remember. I'll have a look. I'll look it up. No, they've certainly started. I saw them beat Burnham at home in the league, and they look a very, very good outfit.
I've just checked it. They're away to Buckhurst still.
Oh, that'd be a tough one.
That'll be a good test. Good game.
It's one they can relish because at the end of the day, they know Buckhurst. They know most people know things about Buckhurst still anyway. So they'll be ready for it, but that'll be a tough one because they're obviously Buckhurst are flying at the moment in the last 2 games especially. Other results to pick out, I would say, obviously, is it one team that surprised me this season in the senior league is Sawbridgeworth. Yeah, I really thought they'd struggle, and they're actually not done. They're in mid-table at the moment, and they went to Houston and won 4-2 in the Vase at the weekend, which I think is a decent. Houston are normally pretty decent at home. They lost 6-2 and 4-2 at home in their last 2 games, so pretty surprising for them. Wormley, they knocked Ilford out on penalties at Ilford as well.
Yeah,
that was a surprise, wasn't it?
Yeah, and another one where the division apart between those two, and Ilford not the worst side in the world either, are they? So yeah, I mean,
Wow.
A great result for Wormley. I mean, they're obviously a fairly small club, so that's a bit of money in the kitty for them too. And I'll also check who they've got in the next round. So let's have a look.
Wormley, yeah.
Oh, they're at home to Sheringham in the next round.
Oh, okay, not the Norfolk side. I think they're in
the North Division, aren't they?
They're in the North Division of Furlough, I think. Yes, so that's the same level. So they'll fancy a win there because they're in it's the first round proper, isn't it? Next round, which I think is
22nd. Yeah,
22nd. So it's about 3 weeks or something. 2 or 3 weeks, yeah. Another Parkview. Now they've been doing very well in the South Division of Furlough, haven't they? They took Little Oakley to penalties at Little Oakley, and that's a tough place to go as well. So the fact that they got a 1-1 draw and only lost on penalties, I think that's a very good performance from them, considering Oakley are right at the top of the senior league. So
yeah, as you say, that's a long old trip as well, isn't it? So to go out all that way and take them to penalties, that's a very credible performance.
Yeah, and just going on the Vase, because obviously May and Baker, obviously they knocked out another Step 5 side in Colney Heath on the Friday. That was on penalties as well. They won on penalties in the previous round as well. But May and Baker, obviously, they've started the season very well, and they're into the first round proper as well after another surprise against another Step 5 team. So yeah, there was a few surprises in the Vase, involving our teams at least.
Yeah, I would say the gap between Step 5 and 6, I think is closing, isn't it? It's closing up. I mean, the sides who get promoted are performing better when they move up to Step 5, and equally the sides who drop down are faring well. So I think there was a time probably when this first come about when the gap was quite large between the two divisions, and certainly inconsistency anyway. But now there doesn't seem to be a lot, and you're regularly seeing these results, aren't you, of Furlough and sides beating Essex senior sides on a fairly regular basis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's some very good teams in the Furlough South who have proven, like Buckhurst Hill, if they do come up, they can more than compete in that division. It might take them a few games to find their feet, obviously, because you're playing that level of side every week as opposed to just in a cup game. So, but once you find your feet, as we've seen with Buckhurst, they're certainly more than beating 7-0 and 6-1s. Are just they're more than okay. So yeah.
Obviously, allude on that as well. You mentioned Wormley there. They've appointed Ryan Wade as their new manager, the former Cockfosters manager, and obviously a Walthamstow player as well. And so that result didn't surprise me, because we know Wadey, he's a really, really good manager. He's done a really good job with Cockfosters. And I personally think that's a fantastic appointment for Wormley.
And I see Reece Massagna has gone there as well.
Yeah.
Who was at Cockfosters, and he is a very good player. So that I don't know if he's taken any others over there, but I certainly saw he taking Reece over there, and that's
we have Reece towards the end of last season.
He is a top player. He's better than Step 6, that's for sure. Yeah. He's probably better than Step 5.
Interesting to see how they do now.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a good appointment for them. So we'll see if Wadey can get in a few more players. They'll definitely be challenging, that's for sure, because he knows a few good players from Step 5. That's definitely the thing. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
Okay. Any other results that would? What about the draw? Because Barkingside away to Norwich United, we know that. So that's going to be a very, very tough draw for Barkingside, considering I think Norwich are 4th or 5th in the Furlough Non-Premier.
Yeah, Norwich United are they're in the top. They're 6th. Yeah, they've won 5 of their 8 league games so far. So that'll be hard. But again, it's a cup game. Side will go there with no fear, and they've got nothing to lose, have they?
No. Let's have a look at the draw for the first round proper of the FA Bars. These are the teams in our region. Now, this has got the potential to be an absolute humdinger of a tie. Buckhurst Hill versus Basildon Town at Roding Lane. That is.
We touched on that a minute ago. It's, Buckhurst will be favourites, obviously, but Basildon will go into that with they're full of confidence. They've just knocked. They've just knocked Clacton out. Obviously, they had home advantage for that, but Clacton are no mugs. They're a good side. They're a good solid side in Step 5. So, I think Buckhurst will definitely take that one seriously. And I know Mark and his players will definitely not underestimate them. That's for sure. So if they do, they might come unstuck.
Definitely. Downham Town will play Stansted. That's a tough trip up to Norfolk there for Stansted. Main Baker versus Enfield at Parkside. That'll be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Biggleswade United against Redbridge.
Well, Biggleswade have already knocked out 2. Yeah, they've knocked out both the South End teams. They knocked out Manor and then knocked out Ensign. So Redbridge will be I think a tougher test than those two.
Yeah.
That might be unfair to say, but Redbridge obviously right at the top of the senior league and having a good season themselves.
Definitely. Here's an interesting one. Baldock Town hosting Benfleet. Benfleet will go to North Hearts. That'll be an interesting one for them. Let locally make the trip to Manchester Rovers in Cambridgeshire. So tough trip to the United Counties League side. It's Newmarket Town versus Romford. That'll be that again. Newmarket have got a good pedigree of knocking out ESL sides in these FA competitions. So
nice setup at Stowmarket. They're in the right place. Nice setup at Newmarket. I went there for a FA Cup game a few years ago when they played Holbridge.
But that's a 3G up there now as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a nice club. It's a nice friendly club and a good facility. So they're enjoying the trip. I think the other thing about these games is these clubs are playing teams they wouldn't normally play. I think, and they normally hire a coach and they'll go out for the day, and it's like they're just all that. You get that bond between them all. So when they do, it sometimes gives them a bit extra, and I think that it's good for these clubs to experience that. I think
definitely. I think it will be. I know Romford have started really well, but that will still be a very, very tough game for them up there at Newmarket. They're going to definitely have to be out the races if they're going to get something out of that.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Maybe they might go to the races if there's any on after or before.
And I'll tell you what, this tie does stand out to me as a very, very intriguing one between two sides who I think have done all right so far. Woodford hosting Sawbridgeworth in an all ESL tie. I think that could be one of the ties of the round because, like you said, Sawbridgeworth has started really well. Woodford at home on a Friday night tend to do well with the crowd behind them, so that could be a brilliant cup tie.
Well, they've both got 10 points in the league. They're only separated on goal difference. So
identical records pretty much there, which suggests it should be a close game, isn't it?
Penalties.
Yeah, I mean, Woodford have. I think Woodford have started the way I thought they were going to start last season, but they didn't. But as I said to Rob, alluded earlier, Sawbridgeworth really surprised me. I thought they'd really struggle this year. So
bit of a dress rehearsal for that one, perhaps tomorrow night, because they've got each other in the league, haven't they?
Yeah, I know. That's funny how that always happens, isn't it? Yeah, we'll see what happens, but that'll be a bit of a. That will probably just where the things you normally find that they don't get the same result twice. So whoever wins tomorrow might not be in the Vase in a few weeks.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
It's a tough one to call out. Yeah,
that is very, very tough. Burnham hosting Ely City. That's a tough one there for Burnham. Ely doing okay in the third and on Premier.
Got home advantage though. That's always counts for something, doesn't it?
Yes.
I think how nice would it be if Burnham could get a Vase run for the late Martin Leno?
Yes,
that'd be really good. Because he was a great guy. He was Mr. Burnham, wasn't he? So I think if they could get promotion this year as well, that'd be fantastic. I think that'd be a good legacy for him as well. But
yes,
okay.
And also you have got Wormley Rovers They are home to Sheringham. Sheringham, you know Norfolk, Pete. I think that's on the Norfolk near Croydon.
Yeah, it's on the Norfolk coast bus route as well. It's a great part of the world. So if anyone hasn't been, go. It's fantastic.
Thanks very much to our Norfolk correspondent.
So yeah, I know. I love Norfolk. Just go to Norfolk. It's great. I think Sheringham. I don't know much about their football team, but it'll be a nice day out for them again, and a nice trip, and hopefully they can add a win as well. But we'll see.
It's going to be a very tough game for Wormley, because I believe Sheringham started very well, and they beat Lowestoft, who have got a 100% record in the league in the FA Cup.
Yeah, they're step 5. Just looking at the table,
they're 14th in the Furlough Premier, but as you just said, they beat Lowestoft, who were
Lowestoft as well.
Top of the Isthmian North. Yeah, that's an unbelievable result. So
and kept a clean sheet, may I add.
Yeah, I know that's an outstanding result for Sheringham. So yeah, not to be taken lightly, that's for sure.
And in the FA Cup, they pushed Needham Market all the way as well. So I know it ended up 3-1, but yeah, that was a lot harder game for Needham Market than it should have been.
Yeah, but as I said, the cup football is a funny thing, isn't it? Sometimes if you're better than the other team on the day, if they don't apply the right principles and tactics and whatever to playing against these teams from a lower division or a different division, you'll come unstuck, because these teams are raising their game against you as well. So it's cup football can be unpredictable, as can most as these leagues are now and again, as well, as we well know.
Exactly, and it will be it will be very, very interesting how that game goes, because obviously I think that could be another standout tie, because obviously Sheringham there have got the pedigree, but then Wormley have got obviously Wadey come in, Reese up there, so yeah, that's going to be fun.
And of course, the games you just mentioned, Sheringham were the underdogs.
Yes.
Sheringham will probably go into this not the underdogs. So when the boot's on the other foot, sometimes it's different pressure, isn't it? And you don't, and it's how you deal with being that favourites tags, because when you're the underdogs, sometimes it's easier because no one's expecting anything from you. So
exactly,
that might count against them as well. You never know.
That's very true. And one tie remaining is a bit further down the draw. You may have missed it. Sporting Bengal. They make the trip to the south coast to take on Wessex League side Pagham, who are currently 12th in the Wessex League Premier, have made a decent start, having moved over from the southern combination. Pagham's a little village in between Chichester and Portsmouth. So it's a nice little village, actually. Be a tough one, because those Wessex League teams are pretty strong. So that will be there'll be no pushovers. Pagham. It'll be a tough game down there. Sporting. Long trip as well.
But it'd be a nice trip for them, as you said. It'd be a nice trip to the south coast, and all they've got to do is just give their all, and that's all you can do, isn't it? They've done well to get to the first round proper. These teams are just get through 2 games, so and they had a really good performance against Westfield in the last round. So, they can be. Do you know what? I've been impressed with the way Sporting have gone on since that opening day when they got absolutely destroyed by Stanway. Stanway Pegasus are obviously a very good side, as we're finding out. But, they really turned it round. And I think Clarkey, the manager, is actually, he was manager. He's not, he's the manager at Sporting now. Clarkey. It is Clarkey, that's what I thought, yeah. I mean, he's got a lot of experience at a high level. So he's a good guy to have in there to steady the ship. And I think, they're doing all right at the moment. I think, I thought they turned it around really well after that opening day. So
been quite a fascinating run for them, actually. When you look at that defeat on the first day of the season, they won three on the bounce after, but then since then it's been win one, lose one, win one, lose one. So they're kind of inconsistent, but they seem to pick the good days to the big occasions.
Yeah, like the Tower Hamlets derby, but we won't talk about that.
We won't talk about that. But I would say Hamlets had a good win at the weekend, didn't they, against St Margaret's?
Yes,
so that was a good win. I mean, they're up to 7th, Hamlets. That's pretty good for them. I thought Hamlets might struggle this season as well, but they're actually higher than Sporting are in the league. So
yeah, Justin's gone in there, isn't he? And obviously he knows a lot of players. They got Jay Knight in there as well. So
only 2 points off the playoffs, Ed. Hamlets. So
got my old flatmate in there as well, Rob Budd in goal.
Oh really?
So
Rob Budd's in there as well, is he? Oh, the goalie. Yeah.
He used to flat share with Rob, so I know him quite well.
Oh well, okay. No, that's good. It's good to see that. It's good to see those two doing well after a tough few years for both clubs. So, so my lane club's doing all right. So that's good to see.
For the record, Sporting Menkle played West Side, not Westfield.
West Side.
Yeah, for
I'm thinking of the shopping centre. Huh?
I was going to say I was in Westfield.
That's probably why I said it. Yeah, I know. Yeah, they've got a big squad, Westfield.
Yeah, I think 3 come out of River Island. 3.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly.
Primark, Low come out of JD Sports. Yeah.
biggest food bar in the world.
They've probably got more players than Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
so, I got a lot.
As I say, very interesting. Very interesting.
There's some interesting ties to come. Yeah, definitely.
There is. Also, the FA Cup, Pete. Now, some very good, interesting ties in that one. One that stands out for me that could be a very, very interesting banana skin. Or Hornchurch versus Braintree. Yeah.
Because there's at Hornchurch as well, and I think that's going to be. Well, Braintree only just got part. Who did they get past in the last round? I can't remember now. I've forgotten.
Haybridge Swifts.
Yeah, they squeezed past Haybridge at home. So after that was a replay, wasn't it? So I'd suggest Hornchurch are probably a better outfit. I don't know.
I think they're probably the favourites. Hornchurch got to be, haven't they?
It's one of those games where you're a lower league, but people expect you to win.
Yeah.
You do get cup games like that, don't you? Where Braintree are. They may be step 2. I think they're still Conference South, aren't they, Braintree?
Yes.
Yeah. National South, whatever it is now. But Hornchurch are a very decent step 3, and I don't think Braintree will be relishing that one.
There won't be.
And I reckon there'll be a decent crowd there. They've been getting good crowds, Hornchurch, anyway. So I think
definitely
that's going to be that would be an interesting tie for sure.
The team we obviously for our level we got to shout out is Romford. I mean, that was an unbelievable win at Potters Bar, Pete, in the last round, and they're rewarded with a home tie. You could say in some quarters it's an Essex derby, although legally it isn't, against Chelmsford at Maysbrook Park. And do you know what? I don't think Romford have got anything to lose.
No, I mean, Chelmsford City are flying in their division. They're actually doing quite well this year. They're in 4th in the National League South, 3 levels above what Romford are now. So on paper, I think it'd be very hard for Romford to get a result. To put it, I think Chelmsford will be too good for them. But it's the FA Cup, isn't it? Romford are at home. They'll have a big crowd there. And Romford have knocked out #, and Potters Bar in the last 2 rounds. They've beaten teams higher up. Chelmsford's going to be a whole new level though, because they're right at the top, towards the top of a step 2 division.
Yeah, and the football. To be honest, I've seen a fair bit of football at National League South level over the last couple of years, and the football is different. It's a lot more athletic. It's physical. And I think it's different too. There's less football played on the floor. It'll be a world of difference, but it's a home tie, as you say. They've got nothing to lose. No one's got any expectation on them whatsoever. No, exactly. There could be a huge crowd at Maysbrook Park because Chelmsford do have a good following.
The train strikes aren't going to help, but
that's not going to help.
But
it'll be a fascinating game,
and
as long as they come out of it knowing they put everything in, you just never know what happened. Never know.
As I said, in other cup ties we've spoken about tonight, Romford have got nothing to lose. Romford are the massive underdogs, but there's a lot of history in this fixture going back, way back. They used to play each other in league games way back and stuff, and things obviously a lot has changed recently, but Romford are having a good season. They're a confident team at the moment, so Chelmsford will have to be wary. You know, if Chelmsford don't apply themselves in the correct way, you know, they might come unstuck. But I just think they're going to have too much for them. But it's a great draw for Romford. It's reward for, you know, for all those wins the wins against teams above them in the pyramid before that. So I hope it's a good day for them. I hope they do themselves justice.
Yeah, hopefully it will be a good game for them. Just some other ties from around the region. Billericay versus Biggleswade Town. Be an interesting one on Saturday. Cheshunt at National League South level now, remember, they really need a win because ever since their opening day win, they've lost, I think, 8 or 9 on the spin since then and find themselves second bottom of the National League South. Now, they're at home to Kidderminster, and that's going to be even tougher game because there's going to be even more expectation on Kiddie now, considering their run last year when they played West Ham.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's going to be a very, very tough game for them. Elsewhere in our part of the world, as I mentioned, Hornchurch versus Braintree, Romford versus Chelmsford. Yeah, and that's about it from our part.
Can I just ask a question? Cheshunt have got Kidderminster. How on earth is that regionalised?
I know.
Cheshunt, who are in Hertfordshire, are playing Kidderminster, who are in the Midlands.
Then again, Ware played them last year.
That's mad. That's crazy. That's a lot. That's a long way for Kidderminster to come, isn't it? I mean, to be fair, they would have got a lot of money from the cup run last year, so money's probably not really a problem. But
and of course, they're in the North Division of the National League as well.
Yeah, no, that doesn't make any sense. I don't get that, but
I suppose it calls into question where that North and South line is. I suppose, which changes every year, doesn't it?
They've obviously gone like that with it, wiggled a bit, and gone round. I mean, Kidderminster's up near like Birmingham and Worcester, isn't it? That's crazy. Oh well. At least Cheshunt have got the home advantage. Was they going to be bad over it?
Well, we're going to take a break here on GFS. For our radio listeners, we're going to have some music for you. For our TV listeners, YouTube TV listeners,
Watchers.
Viewers,
TV,
yeah, TV viewers, YouTube viewers, whatever you want to be, feel free to comment. And yes, we'll be back in just a couple of minutes here on GFS. And as we're on the commercial break, yes, are we both enjoying the show this evening?
Very good. All we want to know though is where do you keep disappearing to?
I know.
Oh, you know, do you? Okay, all right.
Know, yeah.
You messaged me to tell me.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had a shopping delivery.
Yeah, it's nothing exciting.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Just blame Asda's. They were an hour late, so yeah.
How dare they? Yeah.
Blaming the London traffic as well.
We filled in for you, don't worry.
That's all right.
We muddle through. We always muddle through. It's fine. No, it's all right.
Yes. When not commercial break as well, the music break is done on the radio, we're going to be discussing, this is for our viewers, we're going to be discussing the possible plans for leagues and teams to bring their kickoffs forward to save energy costs, because obviously everyone's energy is going up on Saturday, and obviously talk about the Alliance League with Bob. So we've got a lot to talk about between now and 9:30. So yes, very, very packed show. An evening to our viewers on YouTube who might be watching us around the world. Thanks to James for lace. Evening, James. Damo, looking good, lads. Thanks very much, Damo.
I know. You know, I'm just. It's good. It's good that people can watch it as well. But
brings a new dimension to it all, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, I know.
Definitely.
I know.
Yes.
Well, at least it's working. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm quite impressed with this. I didn't even know that you could do that on Zoom.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can do on technology these days.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But no, thanks to everyone who is watching us. By the way, we do appreciate you taking up your Thursday evening to watch us. So.
Yes. Unfortunately, I don't think there's many people actually watching. I think more people are listening. But yeah, I think.
Well, yeah, it's probably like. Well, remember when we first started, the listeners wasn't very high, was it? So
that's got to start somewhere.
So if
But then
people,
again, a lot of people are training and people can watch it again, can't they? And listen.
yeah, a lot of people just watch it back, won't they? Probably.
Mm.
So, yeah, well, for anyone who's watching this back, thanks as well.
Yeah, thanks as well. We love you. Yeah.
So yeah, but we appreciate everyone who takes time to listen and watch us, because without you, it wouldn't really be any point. So
Yes. That's
cheers, thank you.
And also, Pete, I will mention this to you as well. Well done, Norwich. Doing very, very well in the Championship. Then again,
as usual, really.
We've been here before, haven't we?
I know. It's like we should rename one of our tunes to put "boing boing" in it, because that's all we can going up and down. I think I'm more happy with Sunderland the way they've started, because it was I wasn't sure.
Yeah, Pete got cut off then by the music. We do apologise for those listening. Pete was talking actually about how well Norwich and Sunderland are doing.
It's not the first time I've been cut off. Don't worry.
Yeah. We'll come on to that in a minute. Welcome back to the Grassroots Football Show here on East London Radio and live on our YouTube channel as well. Evening to listeners and viewers. We've got Pete Dudley and Rob Parker and Ian the Button Pusher here as well. So before we move on, it's time of the week where we do shout outs. So who am I going to pick on this week first?
Well, you got not much of a choice. So
Ian, I'm going to pick on you.
Okay, got to say, big massive shout out to Kaz. She had a little accident at the weekend at a wedding. She broke her foot. So it's all strapped up, and so she can't exactly rock and roll like she usually does. So lots of love from all of us, I'm sure, to Kaz. And get well soon, and well done NHS for strapping her up. And she's hobbling around on sticks at the moment.
Oh, bless her. Yeah, I hope she gets well. I hope you get well soon, Kaz. Definitely.
We love Kaz. Heavy Rock Show Friday nights on ELR.
Brilliant.
Very good show, by the way, if you like your rock music.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I don't. So that's no disrespect to Kaz. Kaz is a legend. Yeah. So
if you do, it's great.
Yes, if you do, it's great. Yeah. Maybe Rob should try at some point. Rob, over to you.
Yeah, shout out to anybody listening in from the Essex Alliance and the Essex Sunday Corinthian Leagues, of course, if you are indeed. And on the very slim chance that someone from Glendale might be listening, although probably isn't quite their thing. But yeah, shout out to you all, and hopefully catch you all soon.
Yes, and also the one thing I'd like to shout out before I do my normal shout outs. Shout out for those who might be listening instead of watching. Shout out to Rob's curtains, because they're a lot better to look at than Martin's.
Yeah.
Well, Martin, you got a competition.
Got to up his game. Although I will say his are far more colourful than mine.
Yeah, yours are a lot better to look at, though. That's all I'm going to say.
Curtain gate.
Yeah. Yeah, so fair play there. Shout out for me. Shout out to, obviously, to my other half, Charlotte. Love you lots. Also, shout out to my mate Ella and the kids. And yeah, shout out to Damo. Shout out to Scott. Shout out to Martin and his colourful curtains. And shout out to everyone who knows me as well. So yeah,
everybody.
Everyone who knows me. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pete, you were just mentioning, obviously, for the viewers, you were talking about Norwich and Sunderland. So, obviously, Norwich obviously doing well in the Championship, second place. Sunderland, you said you were more impressed with their start.
Yeah.
In the face of adversity.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to one particular person called Becky Skelton, who is watching, or was watching. I don't know if she still is.
Hi, Becky.
So thanks for that. Yeah, Sunderland. You know what? I wasn't sure how they would begin the season, but I think they've surprised me, that's for sure, and quite a few people. I didn't expect them to take to it so quickly. And when they lost, when Alex Neil went to Stoke, I'm thinking, here we go, this is going to be ruin everything. But they've got a great manager in Tony Mowbray, and he hasn't put a foot wrong yet. So maybe it was a blessing in disguise. I don't know, but. Yeah, they're doing great at the moment. I mean, I watched the when they beat Reading 3-0 away when I was over on holiday, and I watched the goals back. The third goal was like watching Brazil. It was unbelievable. I mean, the one touch pass and movement, and they absolutely ripped them apart. And then great finish for the goal. And I'm thinking, am I watching Sunderland? This is unbelievable football. So yeah, no, it's really really good. It's a far cry from the game I saw when they lost to Doncaster at home last season. That's for sure. But yeah, no, if they keep playing like that, they're gonna be definitely playoff bound at least, I would think. So, not not that I like watching Sunderland in the playoffs because it's not normally doesn't normally end well. But to be fair, if they get playoffs, it'd be a brilliant season if they even achieved that. I thought if they get top 10, they'd have done really well. So, we shall see. I just hope they're not playing Norwich in the playoffs because that would be an interesting one. But anyway,
Yeah, Sunderland's record in the playoffs has not been brilliant, or they have won a couple of games, but we won't go there.
no, I can't remember who was that against, Dad.
Let's move on very quickly.
Yeah, let's
Rob,
do.
I'm just going to ask your opinion on this. Obviously, being a Chelsea fan, Tuchel's gone. The now former Brighton boss Graham Potter's in. Your thoughts on that? Because it reminds me in many ways of when Moyes went to Man United or Rodgers went to Liverpool in many ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were quite shocked that Tuchel went. Things obviously weren't going well from the start of the season, but was it enough to see him go? I mean, as Pete said earlier, 6 games, or it probably wasn't even that many back then. It was probably only 4 or 5 games that we'd played. Is that enough of a season to make a big decision like that? I'm not entirely sure it is, but reasonably happy with Potter coming in. I think we know what his strengths are. My only big question for him is how he deals with the big players in the squad. It's something that he's not had to deal with previously. Players that potentially see themselves as bigger than him. But I mean, our problems are quite simple. We are at the moment the equal lowest goal scorers in the top half of the Premier League. So we need to score more goals. And once he finds the formula to do that and gets a couple of wins going in succession, then I think it will start to improve. I think the problem for us is that even if we get a little run going now, we will all stop again for the World Cup. So really, it's about how you come out of the other side of the World Cup and how you perform kind of early part of the season after that will define the season. I don't think there's much to be gained really now between now and kind of mid-November when we stop again. So, but yeah, I hopefully an improvement. But for me, it's a longer term acquisition. It's not going to necessarily give us immediate results as the fans might expect.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Thanks for that, Rob. Can I just say also a shout out to Neil Hunwicks from Cheverel Heath Spartan, who tweeted us to say to you, Pete, that Suffolk is much better than Norfolk. Well, he would say that being an Ipswich fan. Yeah, so
I'll be honest, parts of Suffolk are quite nice as well, but Norfolk's so much better.
Oh, you can say that. Bit of an East Anglian derby bickering going on here. Oh,
it's a friendly rivalry between us, not maybe between the clubs.
Speaking of Neil, if he's listening or watching, I hope you're looking forward to Saturday. He knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about as well.
Ipswich Portsmouth at Portman Road.
The sold out Portman Road game. Yeah.
I'm not going. I'm at Dunstable, but yeah, but yeah, do you know what? I'll have a quick mention on Pompey, seeing as you two mentioned yours. I couldn't be happier of how the season's gone this year. Third place now because Plymouth went top. They beat Ipswich, didn't they? Third place, 22 points. A great team spirit. We look like we're doing well to win games.
The Cowley effect.
Eventually.
I'm not getting carried away, but it's a good start. I just think we did have a difficult run of games. 3 weeks ago, I said judge us after Barnsley, Plymouth, Burton, Bolton, and Ipswich. 2 of them have gone. We drew against Plymouth. We beat Burton. So this weekend will be very interesting. But the good thing is, especially with the Plymouth game, we would have lost that game last year or the year before. And we showed resilience to stitch them up in the last minute again. So sorry, Plymouth fans. I'm just being honest. But yeah, so after Saturday, I think it'll tell us where we are and where we're going to be.
Yeah,
So,
it looks like you got yourself sorted defensively. I mean, that's a pretty good defensive record so far. Obviously unbeaten, the only side unbeaten in the division as well, aren't they? So yeah, good start so far.
Hopefully we'll start as we mean to go on. Right, let's talk lower league now. We're going to have a little discussion now. And again, if you're watching, feel free to comment on our feed or tweet us at ALR Football if you're listening. So should teams be allowed to bring kickoffs forward to conserve floodlight use in the cost of energy crisis? Now, I'm going to start with Rob on this one because this is a very interesting issue, especially down at your level. Because obviously in the winter period, because a lot of teams in the Alliance League don't have floodlights, they have to bring the kickoffs forward to like 1:30 or something anyway. For those that do have floodlights, would this affect them, or is there the room to manoeuvre to do something similar?
I think it's largely down to obviously your situation with whether you kind of own the ground or whether you're just tenants there. Because if you're just tenants at a ground and you're paying a fixed match rate, you're going to see no difference. But for clubs who have their own grounds, and obviously that doesn't apply necessarily to a lot of clubs at our level, any money saving you can make is obviously going to be reasonable to take. I mean, the thing is that Terry Alder, who you might know, who is involved with our league, is our vice chairman. He used to be the electrician at Upton Park when West Ham were playing there, and so he used to be the man switching the floodlights on and off. And he used to say back then, the actual cost of floodlights wasn't actually that much, and we're only talking kind of like a 2-figure number. Now, obviously, things have changed a lot probably since he was there, and I'm not entirely sure what the figure is on how much the cost of floodlights would be for the length of time they're used at our level of the game, probably for 3 hours. But even if that saving was, just to put a number on it, £50, well, it is that's worth saving, because over a season, that's going to roll into many, many hundreds, isn't it? So when you look at, the counter argument is always going to be about when you bring a game forward, the travelling for the away team, the away spectators, and that's obviously something to be borne into consideration. But I would say probably at kind of like our local senior football level, no one's going to be really travelling more than kind of an hour and a half to 2 hours. So if you're travelling to, say, get to a game for a 2 o'clock kickoff and you're going to try and get there for 1, most people will be setting off no earlier than, say, 11 o'clock, you would say, wouldn't you? So for me, it's a no-brainer. It's might be a small saving on a per match basis, but over a whole season, particularly in the winter when you'll be pretty much playing the whole game under floodlights, it seems to be something perfectly acceptable to me, and with not a great deal of impact on others. So for me, it's a yes.
Yes. I've just got Neil's. Neil's made a comment. I don't know if this is about the floodlight situation. He says, I'm at FC Baresi, and that is probably tougher, Adam. I don't know if that's about the floodlight situation. If Neil could...
I think he's referring to your comment about Portsmouth Ipswich, isn't he?
Oh, right. Okay, maybe. Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, and really that brings us to another side of it. Obviously, you mentioned there Baresi. Don't mention Saturday, please, for God's sake. They play at Ware, so I know Ware's probably a bit more travelling than teams in your league are used to, but it's still a bit of a journey, especially if the M25 and the A10's knackered.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's all relevant, isn't it? I mean, sides at our level are less used to travelling and certainly won't be making an hour and a half, 2 hour journeys. So that is a longer journey. Perhaps it requires more time to get there. You're right. I mean, but again, at our league on a Saturday Alliance, we are a set 2 o'clock kickoff. And even if you've got the option of lights, you wouldn't need to use them with a 2 o'clock kickoff because there's enough daylight, even in the depths of the winter, to play without them. But we do see some of the sides in the league who are playing on grounds with lights that are available, that they want to kick off slightly later, 2:30, 3 o'clock even, and use the lights for part of the game. As I said, I think that when you're paying a fixed match rate, you're not going to see the difference. Maybe the following season when the bills go up, of course, and the pitch costs more, but generally you're not going to care that much. I think it's the clubs who are at the cold face and have to pay those bills themselves, who are probably the ones who will see the benefit of an hour kick-off and playing the whole game in daylight. You know, and I think there's a certain amount of sense in that in this day and age when the cost of bills is going to skyrocket for businesses. And we're seeing price increases as consumers, but businesses are seeing it threefold, you know, a lot more than we will ever see it. So there's businesses shutting down everywhere because they can't afford the cost of the increase of electricity or gas. So a small saving on a weekly basis will add up to many hundreds that can be spent on something else. So it's good sense to me.
Yeah, I mean everything is ridiculously going up. Obviously, energy bills, food prices. Everything. I just had some shopping delivered while we was there, and some of the things, my bills gone up big time. Just a couple of classic examples. Sometimes I had those for my dinner. Sometimes I had them pork steaks. Now in Tesco's you get them. You used to get a pack of 2 for £2. Now it's gone up to £3.20 for the 2. It's just absolutely ludicrous how you know, everything's going up. Pete, from a senior perspective, the Isthmian League gave permission for teams to do this. Didcot in our Walthamstow League have asked for permission to do it themselves. And there's obviously talk in the EFL because Mansfield are going to trial it in their league game against Walsall in 2 weeks' time. From a senior perspective, what's your thoughts?
It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. I've seen some. I saw something earlier on Twitter. There was something about floodlights, and there was a chart. I should have copied it and actually got it because it said on there that some floodlight costs are going to go up 300%, which is quite a rise. It's if you can kick off an hour early and not use your lights, surely that's what's got to happen because. It's not just the lights you use, and you've got to open the clubhouse. You've got to cook food. You've got to have all the stuff on in the clubhouse, which will probably cost a lot of money. So, any savings you can make, you're not going because they're not going to shut the clubhouses because they make money from opening them and serving alcohol and burgers and chips and all that sort of things. So, obviously, the tea bar is going to have all the cookers and stuff on, and that uses a lot of electricity. So, if anywhere you could save money. Easily, which is, if you're kicking off earlier to save lights, then why wouldn't you do it? I've heard people talking about, but players are then going to get there earlier, and if they're working Saturday morning or whatever, there must be a way around it. I mean, they've still got to get to the ground for a 2 o'clock for a 3 o'clock game anyway, maybe earlier than that. So I don't really see why 2 o'clock kickoff would be an issue, but I think it'll probably become the norm once electricity prices hike up, and I as a person watching the games would actually quite like early kickoffs because it means you get home earlier, or I think people when I watch intermediate games and they're kicking off at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They're finishing earlier, and you got more of an evening as well. So I think it's a no-brainer. If they can work, if it works, do it. Because I think the cost of having lights on for 2 hours or an hour and a half or how long it's going to be, it's just going to skyrocket. So they're going to have to try and save it as much as they can. If they're kicking off earlier, it's going to save them, say, it'll save a few £100 a season, maybe more. Then that's beneficial, isn't it?
Definitely, I think it is. I don't understand why there's some people that are absolutely the usual suspects that are moaning about it.
People don't like change, though. That's the problem. There's a lot there's a lot of traditionalists out there who want 3 o'clock kickoffs on a Saturday, regardless of the world we live in. And unfortunately, the world's changing, and has changed. So you have to go with the times. You have to adjust to where the world is. And right now, electricity and gas prices are going through the roof. So we're going to have to find ways of saving money. It's just a fact. So
it is. And the thing is, as well, obviously, we don't really need to worry about this really until obviously clubs can't. There's no point in clubs doing it for another month, because obviously the clubs go back a month tonight actually as it goes, and then by the time you get to February, you could probably go back towards the 3 o'clock kickoff, because by the time you get to mid-February, it starts getting dark about 5:15. It gets dark about 5:15, so you could maybe even do a 2:30 kickoff there or something like that. Just
people have just got to adjust to what's in front of you at the end of the day, and I'm sure the leagues will be helpful in the matter. And if they work with their clubs, there's good communication, then there's no reason why it can't work. So
I think I read that the Isthmian have given the permission, haven't they? But the Southern League haven't yet. Is that right, Adam?
I believe so. Didcot have written to the Southern League asking them to think about this. So hopefully we'll hear something from the Southern League within the next 4 weeks.
I mean, there's got to be. I think they got to start planning for it though. Have some contingency plans in place, or have some plans in place for what might happen, because we've seen in the past that if we don't plan for stuff, then it just it's very chaotic. So as long as the communication is good between clubs and leagues, and everything's sort of directly set out, then there shouldn't be an issue. Because everyone wants to save money, don't they? I mean, come on, everyone wants to save money. So if you can save money by kicking off earlier, then you're going to do it, aren't you? So
exactly. Ian, I know you're not a football person.
No.
But, what's your thoughts on this, especially with the cost of living crisis as well?
It's just common sense. I mean, it's like the COVID discussions we had 2 years ago, right? You just got to do the right thing, and clubs are going to go bust. Like businesses are going bust because they can't afford the electricity. So, for 1 hour or whatever it is, I don't see it as a big deal. I really don't. Loads of businesses are changing what they're doing, shutting a few days a week even sometimes. You just got to do what the right thing is. Give it a year. We hopefully get back to less stupid pricing for energy. That's my thoughts.
Exactly. I totally agree with you on that one. I think a lot of it as well is companies making profits, but we could be here all night about things like that. I expect you to say so along those lines, Ian, because obviously we won't go into it because it's not the place to. But I know and read some of your political views, and so I expected that. But Ian, I totally agree with you with what you're saying. It's common sense. I mean, we're all struggling at the moment just to get by, and it's an absolute blooming nightmare. I'm even, for example, conserving energy by doing different things. Like, I know I've got my light on in here at the moment for the show, but once that finishes, that light's going off. I've got a blanket, so I just obviously so I don't have to put the heating on or anything like that. And it's like freezing cold at the moment anyway. But it's still the point.
Yep.
There's a couple of colleges. I mean, Pete might know this. South Essex College decided a couple of weeks ago that they're only going to open 4 days a week, because the cost of electricity in obviously a building of that size is so astronomical that they've decided just to timetable only for 4 days a week and shut the college 1 day a week to save electricity. When it gets to that extreme, that is concerning, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how much obviously it's affecting you guys. I'll just give you a couple of examples of how ridiculous it's been. Now, people might think, cold water shouldn't cost you, but it's the boiler where it mixes it, sort of thing. To run a bath or a shower in my house has been costing me about £1.20 per time. But if I put it just on the hot, it's costing about 45p. Because obviously it's costing more because the boiler has to mix it up and everything like that. And cooking as well. I'm really considering getting one of them air fryers, because I've been told it's like literally 30, 40p to cook a meal. I cooked a meal yesterday, and I calculated it. In the 45 minutes the food was in the oven, it took £1.40 of my electric. £1.40.
And that's just you. And that's just you. I was going to go back to what I said about football clubs having to cook burgers, chips, and all kinds. Imagine how much that's extra that's going to cost them to do that.
Exactly. Oh God, yeah. More equipment. Say you've got three ovens in there, and then you've got the 45 minutes is £1.40. Just say just for sod's law, say that's £4.20 for example. For that sort of thing, you've got 3 ovens. And then you got how the ovens, the burger ovens will be on from like 1 or 2 till 4 for 2 hours, so 120 minutes. Or so yeah, I'm just trying to work 45, 130. Yeah. I'd say for 120 minutes, you're looking at least 10, 15 quid.
You're at some grounds, you're coming to a point where it might be cheaper just to not cook any food.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is my next question. Our club's going to stop serving hot food,
or not cooking it, from what you were saying.
Well, I mean, with that barbecue outside that Manners ground, they won't waste any electricity because they didn't have it on.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, it's like, because some clubs might think it's just not cost effective to cook hot food. I don't know. I mean, it might sound stupid, but if they can save money. If they think it's more it's more cost effective for them just to take take money at the gate and serve chocolate bars and crisps and stuff, and not maybe just serve hot drinks through the kettle, they might do that. I don't know. It's something else to consider though, because that might save them more money.
Exactly.
So
a couple of people commented us on Twitter who are listening. Chris Hithersay, thanks, Chris. Yes, absolutely. Alex Whiteman said what you said, Pete. It's a no-brainer.
Well, on the floodlight issue, yeah, it is a no-brainer. But I've got a feeling clubs might be cutting back on other things that use electricity. So I don't know. It depends. I mean, all the predictions of like Armageddon and everyone's going to have no money, but we'll see. It is going to go up, and it is going to be tough for a lot of clubs to make decisions. But you just got if they do make those decisions, people have just got to understand it and not get bitter about it on social media and stuff.
Yeah,
because everyone's got to find ways of saving money. So.
For those watching and listening, I'm just reading here the the letter that Didcot have sent to the Southern League, and I'm going to read you some passages from this. It says that Didcot's question is simply: does the Southern League have any strategy in place to support clubs that will no doubt find themselves in crisis with this coming season? At present, Didcot Town's energy bill is £1,250 per calendar month, but given the increase, that would rise to circa £5,450 a month.
Yeah, I know. It's outrageous, Ad. It really is outrageous. But what can you do?
And Didcot reckon they could. I think, Didcot reckon it kicking off earlier will reduce its energy outgoings by 40%.
Yeah. It's going to affect businesses. I mean, football clubs are businesses, really. Well, not businesses, but they are on match days. They're run as because they've constantly got all the stuff running. So, for things like that, the costs are going up so much. I've heard some horrendous quotes, and I'm just thinking, I think to myself, how is this even allowed? I don't know. It's just. Every other country seems to be saving money on electricity. Yeah, we're going ours are going through the roof. So it's just it must be a horrendous headache for the people that run these clubs, because they can see it coming and they're like, well, they're probably thinking how on earth we're gonna manage this?
Mm.
So I really don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be an interesting winter, that's for sure. But I just hope clubs don't go to the wall because of it. So we'll see.
Okay, for the last part of the programme, we're going to be talking about all things Alliance League. So, Pete, Rob, yes, a very interesting start to the season in the Essex Alliance League. And I must say, from Walthamstow Reserve's perspective, despite the result of the weekend, we thoroughly enjoyed being there. The senior division is looking very good. Obviously, FC Baresi are top of the league with 16 points from a possible 18, along with Linmore Gardens up there as well. And yeah, so it's looking like a very, very interesting division this year, especially with 17 clubs.
Those two you mentioned are the sides that probably have been the happiest of the group so far. They're both unbeaten, both scoring lots of goals, and look to be the two that you'd say would be the early running. But the others are not far behind, and even Woodford East, who had a pretty difficult start to the season, they've had some great run of results in recent weeks that's pushed them up to third place. Joe Loft the same, didn't have a great start, but they've recovered well, and they're up to fourth place. Petra Cup the same. It kind of goes down about halfway down the table, really, before you start to see the sides who have really had an indifferent start to the season. It's at the moment it's hugely competitive. It's a very, very long season for these teams. A lot of these teams have been playing twice a week regularly for the first 6 or 7 weeks of the season. So that obviously gets them ahead of fixtures before obviously we hit the winter period where we expect obviously to see games start to get called off. But yeah, I mean, so far so good. It's a very, very competitive league. It's interesting to see the results and see the level of enthusiasm, the level of the amount of resource that's being put into these teams this year. Unfortunately, only one can be promoted, or as far as we're aware, only one can be promoted. There probably are half a dozen who would fancy their chances at this stage. So, yeah, really fascinating so far.
I'm just been looking at the results here, and I mean, involving the top three in the senior division, Baresi, Woodford East, and Linmore Gardens, there was 21 goals in their 3 games. At the weekend. I mean, Linmore Gardens were involved in an absolute thriller on Friday night, 5-4 against Blue Marlin at Coles Park.
In which they were 3-0 down, by the way, as well.
Yes,
yeah, they were 3-0 down, yeah.
And Woodford East went to Oakside, a tough place to go, and won 6-0. And FC Baresi went somewhere and won 6-0. Yeah. But no, let's be honest. I think for our reserves, our reserves have started quite well, Walthamstow, and the table and the results have shown it, as you know, Rob. It's I think it was a mix of an off day, and then Baresi showed their quality. So it was one of them days, but we've got a very, very young reserve squad, and they'll learn from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're in that division, there is a good mix of those sides, actually. As you expressed, there are some very experienced sides in there, sides who have probably got players that have played at a good level, who are dropping down a little bit. But there are some very, very young sides in there. Walthamstow are one of them. Brentford, I've seen a couple of times so far, are a very, very young side as well. So there's a good mix, I would say. A good mix of the kind of the players who have kind of been there and done it and kind of now dropping back a bit, but also players who are kind of moving forwards and hopefully are at the start of a reasonable career for themselves. So yeah, it's been good. It's been probably better than we would have hoped. It does show the level a little bit when you've got Brimsdown, who have made a solid start, don't get me wrong, but they are sitting 7th in the table. With the amount of experience that they've obviously brought with them, I kind of thought they might be kind of a runaway side this year, but it hasn't kind of transpired that way. You've got Sporting Hackney, who have obviously come across on a lateral move from the Middlesex League, and they're unbeaten. They're one of 3 unbeaten sides, and yeah, so it's been very difficult to predict. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be really fascinating to see. But it's such a long season. Even a run of 10 wins on the trot now can mean nothing at the end if you go on the same losing streak. So it's really how the sides develop their seasons now, from what we've had, the hard pitches and the warm weather, into those sloppy, muddy pitches in the middle part of the season, and how difficult football becomes then. And I think that those conditions will suit maybe some of the sides outside of the top half better, and might see some sides therefore gain some ground.
And Pete, your opinion, obviously, there's, as I say, goals. And Rob alluded to this. It's going to be an absolutely fascinating decision. You mentioned the likes of Brimsdown and Sporting Hackney there, who have made really decent, solid starts. Is this going to be the season in the Alliance Senior that anyone can beat anyone on their day?
Well, I mean, when I saw the constitution for the senior division at the start of the season, it did excite me a little bit, because there were teams like Brimsdown in there, Walthamstow Reserves in there, and and a 17-team league. That's pretty. I mean, that's almost as big as the Thurlow South, which is senior division. So, and yeah, I really didn't know who was going to come out on top, to be fair. And with there not being a clear favourite, I guess, it was always going to be hard to call to see who was going to go up. And you're going to get teams beating each other, especially towards the top of the division. I mean, they're all very good sides, so it's going to be an interesting how this is going to play out. And there's 32 game season, so they've got plenty of games to get what they do. You look at. I mean, Baresi have had an amazing start. 31 goals and only 4 let in. That's pretty
fantastic.
Pretty impressive after 6 games. Yeah. I saw Petro Cub at Maysbrook Park against, I've forgotten who. Was it? Oh no, that was the Olive Sports, wasn't it? Yeah. They won 5-0. To be fair, I wasn't. FC Petro Cub probably weren't a team I was expecting to be up there, but they looked very decent on that night. I mean, it wasn't a 5-0 game. Don't get me wrong, but they were very clinical, and they're going forward. They seemed very dangerous and took their chances well. But as Rob said, Yolof have really recovered. I mean, that's their only defeat, isn't it? Haven't lost in 5 since then. So it just shows you that regardless of the start you make, if you can pick up points again, you'd be right back in the mix. And yeah, they're actually above FC Petro Cub now, the team they lost to. So, but there are so many teams that, I mean, I couldn't pick a winner. I don't know if Rob knows more about them, but I honestly, looking at the starts of the league, it's hard to really pick anyone out apart from the ones who are already up there. But I'm sure they will have a bad patch at some point, and others will pick up and catch them up. So,
I mean, look at that Friday as well. Blue Marlins, second bottom of the league, only got 1 point, 3-0 up at Linmore Gardens.
Yeah, I know.
And doubled their goal. Actually, they only scored 2 all season before that, and then scored 4 at Linmore. So it just shows how competitive the league is. I'm shocked at Rapid Cheek for being where they are, to be honest, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously they won the Fenton Cup last year. Quite famously beating DT in that final.
Sure, didn't they?
Yeah. I've seen them once this year. I think they have lost players. I mean, obviously sides do. But yeah, they just haven't quite built on what I thought would be a good season for them this year, having done that success in that cup competition. But I guess, they get affected. I think some of the sides were affected by the early start to the season. Obviously starting in August means that you are going to be up against players being away, players having other commitments that they might not have in maybe October, November. So I think that's where the beauty of a football season is, where your league winner is always going to be the side who's been the most consistent throughout all those different segments of a season, right at the August part into the autumn and the wetter part of the season, and then back out again into the spring when pitches start to improve again. So you always do get, on average, the best side winning a league. But you have got to be consistent. The sides who are there at the top now will know that they've got to keep that run going. Of course, the two teams at the top in particular have the distinct advantage of being on a 3G pitch. So they won't be as affected by the winter weather, perhaps, but they've still got to go to away grounds where things are going to be muddier and softer. So it is a really good season. Hopefully things pan out and we get a nice close battle throughout the year.
Definitely. So yeah, it's going to be very, very, very close, and you can't call it. It's going to be absolutely fascinating to see what happens. Let's just have a look at a couple of games that are taking place, obviously, for this weekend. Rob, it's obviously you've got a game taking place tomorrow evening, and yes, it's that game is still on, isn't it? It's Jolloff versus Walthamstow Reserves at Maysbrook Park. That's going to be another interesting one. Hopefully we can respond from that, but we'll have to see what happens. Jolloff are a very good side.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Jolloff. I've seen them twice this season so far. I've not seen Walthamstow yet, so I'll probably come up and watch that one and have a little look at that game. Very intrigued to see how that pans out. Jolloff, we know, are a very unique side to watch. I think is a good word to say. They are very athletic. They're very fit. They do move the ball very quickly. They trust their physiques to kind of win them through games. And they are always a good side to watch, particularly on 3G. Walthamstow, as you say, again, a young side. So again, it's going to be a fast game, you'd expect, wouldn't you? Where they're going to move the ball on pretty quickly. It's going to be a very big pitch, obviously, at Maysbrook. I mean, it's probably the first of the big games between the sides in that top 5 or 6. So it'll be a really, really important game, I think, for both teams to not lose anyway, to kind of keep that momentum going. Obviously, Walthamstow, as you say, will want to bounce back from that big defeat last weekend. They just want to get a decent performance on the mark and get at least a point out of the game, I think would be their aim.
Okay. The other games, interesting. This one here. There's a to the bottom of 3 meet at let's see where the venue for this is. Fairlop Oak. It's Blue Marlin versus Crooks United. You've got Dagenham United playing Woodford East. FC Baresi against Chadwell Heath Spartans. Now, if Neil is listening, I'm surprised. Obviously, we don't know, obviously, what goes on behind closed doors in football and that. Surprised to see Chadwell Heath lost 5, I think, of their first 8 games, which I was very, very surprised about to see.
Yeah, I mean, having finished second last year, again, I think they'd have been fairly confident coming into this year of being there or thereabouts. I think they started okay. I think they won a couple early doors, and they won one in midweek, which I went to against Frenford. But yeah, been a bit inconsistent maybe. Scoring goals, but probably conceded more than they want to. 15 in 8 games is probably where their failings have been somewhat. But you know, I think that we all know Aaron and the way he works, and I'm sure that he is more than motivated to try and improve that position drastically, and will have the plans in place, I'm sure, to try and impact the game against Baresi, obviously, which is going to be a very tough game for them, travelling away to them. But you know, they've just got to, at this stage, just build performances first, get in the game, get something from it if they can, and then when they play the sides that are in and around them, they need to convert those performances into 3 points. And 2 or 3 wins can move things still very quickly at this early stage of the season. When you get 20 points behind, it's not easy to recover. No. But 2 or 3 wins now at this stage would carry them comfortably into the top 5. Yeah. So, it can change that quickly.
I was just going to add, I thought Chadwell Heath last season actually surprised. I think they did a lot better than I expected. After coming into, that was the first time they come into the division, to be in the title race. I think that was a remarkable achievement for Aaron and Neil and the boys.
Neil's messaged us. He's actually said that he's not making excuses, but losing 5 senior players hasn't helped.
No. Well, I was going to say, they're going to have lost some players, aren't they, I think, because that's going to be the only reason. But also, in the second season in the senior division, so sometimes the second season can be the hardest. So I think they'll come good. I know Aaron and Neil really well, and I mean they'll get a squad, and they'll once they start winning a couple of games, as Rob said, they'll be right back in the mix again.
And I think the thing that they've done as a club also, adding the reserve side this year as well, has given them something to maybe use as a tool to see players coming into the club. Whereas before they only had the one team set up, so it was kind of, they didn't get a good opportunity to really see players until they were in the match environment. They've now got that reserve set up, which will give them hopefully a feed of players coming through, and also the extra support squad wise that when they in a long season they may have to dip into those resources to support what goes on at first team level. So I think that's a good move for the club.
Okay.
They'll be fine. They'll be fine. They're in good hands. So
the other fixtures in the senior division this weekend: Man Baker Reserves versus Friendford Development, Rapid Chitford versus Linmore Gardens. That's bottom against second. Well, that's going to be a very tough game.
Well, they played second bottom before and only won 5-4 in the end, so you never know.
Fair enough. And Sporting Hackney versus Kit Out London. There's always goals where Kit Out London are concerned, isn't there, Rob? 15 scored, 22 conceded in their first 7 games of the season.
Yeah, a very inconsistent side. I think they'd probably say that themselves. Saw them in pre-season when they played Man Baker. That was a close game. But yeah, they are, they are a side who on their day are a side who are a top 4, top 5 side. But they just need more of those days, don't they? As probably a lot of sides probably would want as well. But I mean, they're one of those sides who you kind of don't see maybe challenging this year at the top, but they're going to be the kind of side who are going to nick results against teams who could cost them. So yeah, they're an interesting side.
Okay. Let's go on to the Premier Division. Well, can you explain how come, obviously, you have got 2 Premier Divisions this year, you've got an East and West?
Yeah, to be quite honest, it's because of the number of teams who want to come into the league, and I think we had well over 20 new clubs apply to come into the league last year, and we do get the age-old story of we must go in your top division. We've got players from this, that, and the other coming into the club, and we hear that story very, very frequently now, as I'm sure other leagues at the same level tend to as well. And to be honest, it's without the ability to kind of prove that one way or the other. What we don't want to do is throw those teams right at the bottom of the league as a side who are in the lower reaches of the league. The last thing we would want to see is teams who are generally very, very good coming in at the bottom and smashing teams. So we felt this year, given the amount of sides who were in our mind just below Step 7 standard, or probably at Step 7 standard, but needing a year to prove that to us, we had enough teams to form a geographic split at Premier League level. So we made it East and West because there just happened to be the same number of teams kind of in the London area as there were kind of in the West Essex area. So we made that split, and it's kind of proven to be the right thing so far. It has kind of meant that we've had to adjust our promotion rules slightly for this one season, of course, which means there are 4 teams due to come down and 2 up from each of the divisions, which obviously adds a bit more help to the sides in the Premier. So but I think it's
down. Bottom 4 in the seniors down, and top 2 in each.
Effectively 4 up, 4 down, but 2 up from each. Provided, of course, that they meet the ground grading requirements, obviously being a key requirement out of that. But yeah, I think we're quite open in saying that we don't know if it will be a situation that we'll repeat next year. It could be something that gets moved even further down the league. We may go geographic further down the competition as well. It might just be one season just to see how all those new sides fare. We don't know. We obviously evaluate as the season goes on. But it was, to our minds, the best solution to a problem, rather than forcing a lot of teams to play well below where they think they are. They're kind of all in the same level, and they kind of work it out from there.
Okay. Looking at this, obviously, Aveley, obviously, most teams have only played 1 or 2 games. Obviously, games were on the 10th were obviously called off. Aveley's under 23s lead the way after 1 game. Got Chingford Athletic back with us in there. We've got some Waltham Abbey A, Cowley Community, Fair Up Rovers, RCXI, London, Park City, Wapping, and Freetown. I think that they must be a new club. Not heard of them before.
No, they're a new club this year, but with some players with pedigree from higher levels.
Okay. And obviously, for some reason, Barkingside and Belfry haven't started their league campaigns yet.
Haven't Belfry got folded?
Yeah, Belfry unfortunately have now gone.
Yeah.
I think they announced that a few days ago. They've obviously struggled after last year winning a double. I say lost players crucially to Manor. They lost their main goal scorer, and obviously then it's one of those situations I think which spirals, and obviously other players take away their commitment to the side as well, and eventually they were at a point where they couldn't fulfil in their minds for the season. So yeah, unfortunately they depart. Barkingside is literally just down to fixturing, that they haven't played any games as yet, which is ironic because the fixture secretary for the league is Barkingside secretary as well. But I think, that is just they were due to play Belfry this weekend, so it's all kind of everything kind of has hit them. But yeah, they are still due to commence the season very shortly, hopefully.
Okay, let's have a look at the Premier Division West. You've got some interesting teams. You've got AEK London. They have any relation to AEK Athens, maybe? You've got Priory Park Rangers. I take it are they a new team?
No, they're not new. They're new to us. AEK and Priory both came over from the Middlesex League this year. AEK were at Step 7 in the Middlesex a couple of years ago in the COVID season. I think they won the COVID Cup in the Middlesex League, which was like the top 6 sides who played against each other. They're actually all Brazilian, not Greek, as you might imagine. Yeah. But they've had an excellent start, and I think they were one of the sides who came to us and said, "Look, we are a good side," and we probably knew that, but ultimately, we don't put brand new sides to us into that level of football. So they've gone there. They're fine. They're doing okay. Priory Park, again, another side who's come across from the Middlesex League, made a great start so far, unbeaten. I think they came across from Division 1 or Division 2 of the Middlesex League. So, and then the rest of the sides are more known to us. So they're kind of your regular sides at this level. Obviously, North East Lions, good start for them also, being in 3rd place. London Cranes had a difficult start to this. I think they lost to AEK in their first game, but have since bounced back as well. Leighton City were Francis Luke last year, so they've changed their name to Leighton City this year.
I was going to say, I didn't realise Leighton had become a city.
They lost their first game, but won 10-3 at the weekend, so they're up and running. CSM, as we know, probably look on a bit of a rebuild, I guess, after they got relegated from the senior division on the last day of the season as well. A bit of a knock to them, but they had a good result in their first game, and they won their County Cup tie at the weekend as well. So they're on the up.
I was at that game where they got relegated as well. They were gutted.
That's right. Yeah, it was a good. Well, it was a good ending to the season in a funny way. Not for the teams involved, of course, but for it to go to the last day of the season did show how competitive.
And the topsy-turvy way it went as well.
Yeah.
So it was just madness. You've also got in 7th. You got G7. Don't know why world leaders. You got a team of world leaders in your league, but there you go. Yeah.
No, they're a new club to us, but I think they were playing in the Inner London Sunday League last season. I
know them in that league very well. Seoul Youth I know very, very well, obviously from Tower Hamlets. You've got Athletic Newham's under 23s, Wanstead, and Tower United, who obviously haven't really adapted to life after relegation.
No, again, a side who've come down, and I think it's been a bit of a shock to them, been a bit hard for them to take. So yeah, it's a division which again is very, very interesting because there are a lot of new sides there. I would expect there to be a fairly good battle for the title in this one. I think AEK on paper at the minute, I would say, are the side who look like they're going to be the ones who end up victorious out of the division. But there's plenty of experience and sides in that at that level who know this level of football, and will certainly pick up plenty of results as the season goes on.
Yeah. Okay, let's have a brief look at Division 1. You've got Newham Wanderers up there, 2 wins from 2. You've got other teams in there such as Something from Nothing, Unity, Forest Green. They've only won 1 game, although they've had other things to occupy them, like losing their sporting director. Sorry. Old Hamians 5th. Athol, is that correct? Athol,
I think we pronounced the T. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Are they Athol protected?
Oh.
If they go on holiday.
Oh.
How to kill the show in one moment.
Yeah. Hopefully they can claim the title. Renegade, Ilford Reserves, Redbridge Community, and Kwanzaa's London Sport. So Division 1, a team of 10 teams there. Rob?
Yeah, I mean, again, the side who actually I think will be one of the favourites in this one. Actually, haven't started yet. Is Ilford Reserves. They've had some great results in pre-season. I think they lost a fair chunk of their side to Chingford actually over the summer. The manager went to Chingford Athletic, but they've got a new manager in, and obviously a new core of players there. And I think they're going to probably do okay this year. Obviously, the early leaders are Newham Wanderers. I followed their pre-season quite closely as well. They were very strong. So they've won 2 from 2 so far. So they're looking decent. Again, very, very unpredictable. There's a lot of sides obviously promoted up from Division 2. A lot of sides who will have obviously strengthened their squads over the summer as well. So, yeah, a very, very unpredictable division, I would say. A lot of East London sides in there. So, yeah, I mean, they're obviously all fighting for a place in the Premier Division, these sides. So, you know, they're certainly upwards thinking. You've got Unity, of course, who won the Cup last year. Old Estamians, who got to a Cup final last year. So plenty of winning pedigree in that division.
Okay, good to know. Let's go on to the next division. Is Division 2. Snaresbrook, who I believe they're the same Snaresbrook, aren't they, who were in the Olympian last season. 3 out of 3 there. So I'm a bit surprised considering they did quite well in Olympian 1 that they're a bit further, like Alliance 4th tier, really.
Yeah, I mean, when they came to us quite late. I'm not sure. I think it was probably end of August time, mid-August time. They were on a rebuild at that stage. They said that it was going to be obviously they were trying to save the club. To be frank, they had 2 teams last year, I think, in the Olympian as well. I think the reserves done quite well as a side, but I think a lot of those boys moved on and they were on the rebuild. They weren't sure actually there would be any Snaresbrook this year, so we're actually quite pleased that there is a Snaresbrook first and foremost. They were a side who was in the Essex Business House League previously to being in the Olympians, so they're a side who've kind of come home in a way. Yeah, I mean they've made a great start. There are 2 or 3 sides in that division who I think are going to go toe to toe. Them being the next 2 in the list actually, Rainham Phoenix, who obviously got to the Cup final last year, as Rainham Working Men's Club. Obviously they've got their new title this year. Old Barcabians, which is kind of a mixture of last year's Olympian side plus the side who done very, very well in Division 3 in our league last year. I think that little cluster of 3, I think, are going to go a long way in their battle at the top there. So yeah, this I think will be a fairly close division. I think by the end, probably Snaresbrook at the moment favourites, I would say, judging by their early results though.
Yeah, we've got obviously Rainham Phoenix in there, Old Barcabians, Woodford East Reserves, Royal Forest, FC Brazies 23s, Chadwell Heath Spartans, St Francis, Linmore Gardens Reserves, and Barking Potters. In Division 3 now. Interesting division, this one. You've got Newbury East in there, who have won 2 and drawn 1 of their 3 games, scoring 12 goals in the process. Chigford Harriers up there in second, Jolloff's Reserves, Dagenham United's Reserves, Frentford in there, Melbourne Sports, Flyers under-21s, Buckhurst Way, Romford's under-21s, poor old Glendale in 10th. And at the bottom, you've got the Football Club of Riverside. So long trips to Middlesbrough and Australia for teams in that division this year.
Yeah, it's interesting this year. When we looked at this table at the start of the season, obviously as my club particularly, we thought, do you know what? It's very unknown. Of course, there's a lot of new sides there, but no one really stood out early doors. Looking at the early results, Newbury East, obviously they came down from Division 2. Their goals is very much boosted by Shaka Barnett playing for them, scoring goals for them.
Very, very well.
So obviously that's obviously a massive addition for a side playing in Division 3. So that's obviously good for them. In second place, Chingford Harriers, I will say that they've done really well. Come up from Division 4, jumped straight on the gravy train again in Division 3. So good luck to them. Obviously they got to the Cup final last year. Jollof Sports, now. Interesting with these guys, they had a pretty horrendous pre-season, I would say. I think they'd be fairly safe in saying that as well. Even we beat them, which is saying something. But they've really turned it round. Won 2 from 2. They had a guy playing for them on Saturday who they signed from Maidstone, who played for them, Noah Chesmain. And looking at his prior record, he's played Football League. So if they're going to sign players with that kind of caliber, you know, again, they're going to be a side probably who are going to be there or thereabouts, you'd think, at the top of the division. And then the rest of it is kind of made up of sides who we know very, very well. The likes of Melbourne, Flyers, Buckhurst Way, they was in our division last year. Dagenham promoted from Division 4. Romford under 21s, interesting kind of side, you'd say. Don't really know where they're kind of comprising their players from. Perhaps they're kind of college sides, perhaps trying to give them some football on a Saturday. And Football Club of Riverside, a team who actually did play last season. I think that was in the Reading League. The guy he was travelling down to Reading every week. So he's kind of moved his team closer to home quite substantially. And they made a fairly solid start so far. So, yeah, do you know what? Early days. I mean, obviously we've only played one, lost one. Disappointing after such a great pre-season so far. But you know, it's you just need 1 or 2 wins on the board and get things moving the other way.
How come he was playing down in Reading? Blimey.
I'm not entirely sure. When we interviewed the guy back in kind of February, March time, he was travelling down there. That's where the team was based, but I think the players may have been based down there. But for him, it was obviously too much of a commitment to keep going down there, so he decided to apply to us and bring the side back. And he's playing over at Lakeside this season, so a little bit closer than Reading.
Yeah,
at least it's still on the Thames.
Yes, you could say that. Yeah,
one end of the Thames to the other.
By the riverside, just a different end of it.
Yeah. Yes. Finally, in Division 4, let's look at Division 4 now. You've got Collier Row Wheels, who are top of the league with they've won 2 of their 3 games. Rob, are they a new team and will they keep rolling towards the promotion, do you think?
Yeah, I saw them in pre-season. I saw a bit of their game in pre-season. They looked a decent side. I think they've got some players who have played at a slightly better level previously, maybe for some of the other Collier Row sides previously as well. They are effectively Collier Row A. I think the Wheels comes from a 5-a-side team. I think they ran as a group. So they kind of just combined the names under this new identity. But yeah, I think there'll be a side that's going to be up there. Good to see West Essex actually be 2 from 2 after their first couple of games. I think they finished possibly second bottom last year. Had a bit of a difficult start as a very, very young side, in fact, just coming through into adult football. 2 from 2 this year. That will do their confidence a world of good. And to have a London APSA side back playing in adult football again is obviously a great thing to see. Been a while that's taken place. So good to see them. Again, a very, very young side in what is mostly a very, very young division. So yeah, lots of youth, lots of good football taking place, possibly at a slightly frenetic kind of style. But ultimately it's a good solid division. Another Romford team in there as well. So always intriguing to see how this one progresses in Division 4.
Yeah, I hope Collier Row Wheels don't have a bad run because we're just going to come out and say the wheels have come off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very exciting divisions this year. What about the cups, Rob? Obviously, we've got the. Will there be more cups, or is there less cups? You've got the Fenton Cup, Fenton Trophy Divisional Cups. So you done the draw, didn't you, at the league?
Yeah, we've done. We've got the usual. We've got the Fenton Cup and the Fenton Trophy, which are our 2 kind of catch-all competitions. The League Cup competitions involving multiple divisions. So Fenton Cup this year involves the senior and the Premier teams together. Obviously, there's more Premier teams than usual, so they're into the Fenton Cup. And the Fenton Trophy is for the sides from Divisions 1 down to Divisions 4. So they're kind of our mainline cup competitions. Again, we're running the divisional cups. So there'll be 1 for each. The Senior Cup will be a midweek competition this year, which we've got to go out to clubs very soon to ask them about their participation in that, because obviously not all of the clubs have access to floodlit grounds to take part, but obviously those who want to will obviously involve. The Premier divisions are clumped into one competition. And then the others are just as per usual, really. You got Division 1 through to Division 4 Cup competition. So same number of finals, I believe, in top of my head. I think that's right. So yeah, it always a great way to finish the season. Our cup finals, as we know, generally always happen mid-May onwards, and it rounds the season off quite nicely. Loads of dramatic moments and key goals and arguments. But yeah, it's always interesting the way that the season generally pans out that way, that the league season gets done, and then obviously the cup finals close things out.
Okay, well, obviously, hopefully we'll have the draws on here on East London Radio in the coming weeks, so we'll sort that out. Yes, and it looks a very, very exciting season. We look really forward to keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, it's definitely football is a difficult game at times. I mean, even since the AGM, I think we've lost probably a good 5 to 10 teams, I would say, since the AGM. I think football is at that level at grassroots where there's a lot of clubs who think they're going to be able to run and obviously don't get the player resources or the financial resources to kind of get going. But you know, we intentionally started with larger divisions than we would have probably wanted to, but that's proven to be the right thing. When you lose teams, it means that you make minimal movements, whereas if you start with lots of divisions of 10, which we could have easily probably had 8 or 9 divisions back in August, July, August time, but then you'd have ended up with lots of divisions of 7s and 8s, and that doesn't look good. It's not good for the clubs involved. So yeah, football is still in this funny transition period where COVID is still impacting us even after a couple of years of it not really being there. But people's obviously the cost of playing is a lot higher. The cost of renting pitches is going through the roof, and the cost factors are unfortunately one of the things that do see a lot of these sides depart. It's obviously very, very sad to see. It's one of the things that we can have very little control over, because we don't have the resources to bail sides out or to make things much cheaper. It really is down to the cost of facilities, where it's won or lost with these clubs. They've kind of got to find a venue for them that they're comfortable with, but doesn't cost the earth. And unfortunately, now the average price of a 3G pitch is probably upwards of 120, 130 pound a pitch now. When you add on the referee's fee, which is now up to 40 pounds, that makes football on the edge of unaffordable. And that's why a lot of teams go to the wall, especially if you're running on bare 11 every week. If you're not getting the money in from players, then obviously it becomes very, very hard for the people running those teams. So we'll just hope that the landscape is different once we get out the other side of obviously this cost of living crisis, and obviously we can get lots and lots of football taking place on our parks.
Definitely, 100%. Rob, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show again. It's been really, really good, and we'll have you hopefully back on in the next few weeks.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yes, you're welcome, and obviously stick around at the end, obviously, of course. Well, that is about it from the show for this week. Pete will be back next week on GFS. So I've got things again. So Pete, guest to be confirmed. Unfortunately, our guest schedule's all over the place because obviously we haven't been here for 3 weeks. So yeah, we need to work all that out. But yeah, we'll sort everything out here on East London Radio. Ian, thank you very much for pushing the buttons.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and you know what? I must say it's been a real pleasure to be able to do this show live on YouTube as well. So hopefully, in due course, we can make this a regular thing.
Yep.
And thank you very much to those that watched and those that have listened. Right, from all of us here at the GFS team, it's good night, and we will see you